very special.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Smart customer, I will tell you. The war stopped. By the way, that is the most beautiful language. I have no idea what he's saying, but that is the most elegant, beautiful language. Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money, to be clear.
It began like most meetings with a handshake. But it wasn't like most handshakes. It was a Trumpian handshake, bone-grinding, knuckle-whitening, and a show of pure dominance. World leaders tend to struggle with it, but not Emmanuel Macron. The French president met it head-on.
Should federal workers be listening to their agencies or Elon Musk?
Well, these two have a long history of handshake duels. The first one was in 2017 during Trump's visit to France. Then there was one in 2024 when Trump, as the US president-elect, was in Paris for the Notre Dame opening. And now we have another one in 2025. It's like frenemies meeting at a high school reunion. Now, Macron and Trump have had a mostly friendly relationship. The bonhomie was on display during the American leader's first term. They laughed, they hugged, they slapped each other's backs. And this time, too, we saw more of it. Macron was the first European leader to meet Trump at the White House, and the PDA, we have to say, was out of control.
Today's a big day in that we had a G7, and President Macron is a very special man in my book. We were together. We did it together. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. President. Thank you.
By the way, that is the most beautiful language. I have no idea what he's saying, but that is the most elegant, beautiful language. Go ahead. He's a smart customer, I will tell you that.
But beyond the camaraderie, the battle lines were clear. Tensions are high over Ukraine. There's back and forth over European security. The transatlantic relationship is strained. So Macron arrived with a mission to ensure that Europe is not just a spectator, that it gets a seat at the table. The question is, did he pull it off? Did he get Europe a seat at the table? First, let's look at the things that the two leaders agreed on, starting with European security. The US has long been a security guarantor for Europe. Now Donald Trump wants them to step up. He wants them to shoulder more of their security needs. It has led to a scramble in Europe. Countries are debating defense spending. But the French president agrees with Trump. He too believes that Europe needs to do more.
I'm also pleased that President Macron agrees that the cost and burden of securing the peace must be borne by the nations of Europe, not alone by the United States. And Europe must take that central role in assuring long-term security of Ukraine, which they want to do.
The second thing is the Ukraine peace deal. Macron says a truce is just weeks away, and he floated the idea of a European peacekeeping force in Ukraine, but there were some strict conditions. No frontline action, no involvement in direct conflict, and most crucially, the need for US backup.
As for France, a lot of my European colleagues are ready to be engaged. But we do need this American backup because this is part of the credibility of the security guarantees, and this is our collective deterrence capacity.
European troops may go into Ukraine as peacemakers. So when the agreement is done, they can watch that everything is followed properly. I don't think that's going to be a problem. And a lot of the European countries, I don't want to speak for France, but I know that the presidents talked about doing that also.
The third thing is the minerals deal, controlling Ukraine's rare earth minerals to make up for US aid. We'll tell you more about the deal later. For now, do know that Donald Trump wants this deal, and Macron did not seem to mind it. In fact, he lauded what he called the strong American involvement.
It looks like we're getting very close. The deal's being worked on, and we're, I think, getting very close to getting an agreement where we get our money back over a period of time. But it also gives us something where I think it's very beneficial to their economy, to them as a country.
Look, I think this discussion is a very important one. First, because it's important for the US, and it will be a good occasion for a first very important meeting between President Trump and President Zelensky. Second, I think there is a lot of economic upside on both sides.
So those are the three things they agreed on. Now on to the points of contention. The first was Ukrainian aid. Trump claimed that Europe was only lending money to Ukraine and they expected a repayment. Macron rejected this. In fact, he interrupted Trump mid-sentence.
Europe is loaning the money to Ukraine. They get their money back.
No, in fact, to be frank, we paid 60% of the total effort, and it was through, like the US, loans, guarantee, grants, and we provided real money, to be clear. We have 230 billion frozen assets in Europe, Russian assets, but this is not as a collateral of a loan, because this is not our belonging. So they are frozen. If at the end of the day, in the negotiation we will have with Russia, they're ready to give it to us, super. It will be a loan at the end of the day, and Russia will have paid for that.
If you believe that, it's okay with me.
Mr. President,
If they get their money back, we don't, and now we do. But, you know, that's
We
only
will fight
fair.
both.
Mr. President,
Trump doesn't like being interrupted, so this was sort of a diplomatic judo move from Macron, and he seems to have pulled it off. Trump did shoot back, though. Macron had clearly made his point by then. Europe was not just tagging along, it was paying the bills, and it wanted respect. The other disagreement was on Putin. Trump was asked if he views Putin as a dictator, and this was his answer.
President, to call Zelensky a dictator, would you use the same words regarding Putin?
I don't use those words lightly. I think that we're going to see how it all works out. Let's see what happens.
Meanwhile, Macron did not shy away. He called Putin an aggressor and said that Russia has violated Ukraine's peace. So the talks weren't all harmonious. The contrast was quite stark. And the outcome? Did Macron manage to keep Europe in the game? You could say the French president did what he came to do. He charmed, he challenged, and at times he contradicted Trump. Most importantly, he kept Europe in the conversation. But the real test is yet to come. It is not clear if he's managed to sway Donald Trump to let Europe have a say, to let them participate in the peace talks. We'll have to wait and see how that played out.
Merci beaucoup. Hi, how are you?
Very well, thank you.
Thank you for being here.
Namaste, Mr. President.
Bharat Kelogan, Komeri Namaste.
How many people generally follow you in interviews?
Typically, in a month, we have viewers up to 150 million. That's more than twice the population of France. And in the last 2 years, we had 3 billion viewers. So I say, Laurent, this is your chance to be famous. You're on Firstpost. One word to describe your equation with Prime Minister Modi.
Amitié.
As India and France work together, are you creating a new era of non-alignment in the technology space?
India is a training superpower. 1 million engineers a year, more than all of Europe and the US combined. So we have that partnership. We have a partnership on the environment and the economy. We also have civilian nuclear programs. And that is something we've developed far beyond the France-India relationship. So we want to work together on AI.
And then comes China with its DeepSeek, creating models at a fraction of the cost. Did that innovation take you by surprise? Did that breakthrough make you sit up and think, what did the Chinese do and how?
But what did DeepSeek do? They took everything that was already available from the last AI model and then they recalibrated it.
So are you going to ban Chinese AI in France?
So we don't have this American approach of banning tech because of where it comes from.